And you think too of the week that Irish sport has had with the passing of John Cooney, and we think of his family. The funeral was on Friday. Two young sports people, Roy, dying what they love to do best.
Soul-crushing moments like this, they don't merely wrinkle the fabric of the sporting universe. They tear it asunder. I'm a big National Hunt racing fan, and I remember vividly 23 months ago Michael O'Sullivan announcing himself as a superstar in waiting at the Cheltenham Festival. He rode Marine Nationale to victory in the Supreme Novice, the first race of the Cheltenham Festival. He emblazoned the Cotswolds with the best of himself that day, and he was delivering daunting evidence of a special talent. Boxers and jockeys, I have had the good fortune to interview dozens of them down the years, and where an awful lot of sporting interviews can be monochrome and one-dimensional, boxers and jockeys, I think, because they face these terrible perils every time they go to work, there's a fundamental honesty, an innate decency about how they talk about life. They talk with an earthy realism. You can sense that they understand when they clock in for work, disaster is only a heartbeat away. I remember talking to Ruby Walsh one time, and we did an audit of the injuries on his body, and it was extraordinary. It really was. He'd had his spleen removed, he'd had collapsed lungs, multiple concussions, every conceivable fracture in his body, every conceivable bone in his body fractured, and yet they get up and do it the next day. Most of us, when we're fans of the sport, we've played that sport, whether it's football, whether it's hurling, whether it's golf. So many of us who look on and admire racing have never even sat on a horse. I truly don't know how they do it. They're moving at 30 miles an hour in a stampede of horseflesh, and anything can happen at any moment. There's a real courage. We talk about courage in sport, about performing under pressure, about the capacity to deliver. What these guys do every day is something that I would find utterly terrifying. John Cooney, boxing has had its fair share of tragedy, as we know. Michael Foley has a beautiful piece today in which he outlines the type of person that John Cooney was. He talks to Barry McGuigan, who killed a man in the boxing ring, and the effect that has. And he has a beautiful line from the doyen of sports writers, Hugh McIlvenny. I remember as a young guy when Johnny Owens, the Welsh fighter, died, I was watching the fight, and about questions about the morality of boxing then arise. And McIlvenny wrote, quite a few of us who have been involved with it most of our lives share the doubts about boxing. But our reactions are bound to be complicated by the knowledge that it was boxing that gave Johnny Owen his one positive means of self-expression. It is his tragedy that he found himself articulate in such a dangerous language. Jockeys and boxers are fluent in the dangerous language of life. And all we can do this morning is pass on heartfelt sympathies and just admire what they did. There's a line, I don't know whether it's appropriate at the moment, but there was a line I heard recently that everybody dies, but not everybody lives. In the arena, those guys lived and they pursued their dream.
Very well said.